Hi, I'm Susie Garden, and this is the Ageless and Awesome podcast. I'm an age-defying naturopath and clinical nutritionist, and I'm here to bust myths around women's health and aging so that you can be ageless and awesome in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. The Ageless and Awesome podcast is dedicated to helping women through perimenopause and menopause with great health, a positive mindset, and outrageous confidence. Hit subscribe or follow now, and let's get started. This week on the podcast, I'm really excited about having a very special guest, Nikki Parkinson, who you may have already heard of. Nikki is a former journalist turned blogger, author, and now fashion designer. At the core of all that she does is her love of helping and supporting women to find greater confidence through their everyday style and the life they lead. Styling You, which is her business, it's a Queensland Micro Business Telstra Business Award winner, and it's attracted sponsorship from national brands such as Frankie for Footwear, Allianz Travel Insurance, and Priceline. In 2019, Nikki launched her own fashion label, Styling You, the label, offering Australian-made, non-boring wardrobe basics that take the stress out of the what to wear question. She's long advocated for a disruption in the way that fashion is marketed to women. Styling You, the label, is the first label globally to invest in showcasing its designs on every size that it sells, which is size 6 to 20. Not only does that increase customer confidence, but it flips the idea that fashion should only be seen on one size, height, age, color, belief, or ability. Nikki, welcome to the Ageless and Awesome podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Susie.
I'm really excited to interview you today. And what I do with all of my guests is I just ask them to give us a little bit of an insight, I guess, into your journey and specifically into your interest in supporting women in perimenopause and menopause when it comes to style, but also awareness.
So I'm turning 56 very soon, and I experienced perimenopausal symptoms probably that I was aware of 10 years ago, but didn't understand what was going on. It's hard to believe now, but there really was so little chatter about it. And in hindsight, I should not have put up with flooding periods. That was definitely the first change, because I had very regular, very normal periods before that. And then the next minute, if I left the house and stood up at any given point, it was not pretty. So
yeah,
it's amazing if you don't have people talking about it, it's amazing what you just hide, or you just try and cover up the best you can, and you don't talk about it. And I remember I actually was out to lunch with an old friend when it happened, and I was embarrassed. I didn't say anything to her. I kind of waddled to the toilet, keeping my legs together, hoping everything would just come out. And it is something that I'm really pleased that we're talking about. And by virtue of when we moved to Brisbane and I made new friends with my son's school, a lot of these women are up to 9 years younger than me. So they're hitting that perimenopausal stage now. And I'm like the nagging big sister who's going, you need to talk to someone about that. Don't put up with it. Don't put up with what I put up with. It's just not worth it. If this was happening to men, we'd very much know about it, and there would be an instant solution.
Yes. That is so true. That is so true. And it is something that I think a lot of women aren't really talking a lot about. And menopause just generally is not something that, our mothers didn't really talk to us about it, is what I'm finding. And this knowledge now that perimenopause starts up to 10 years prior to menopause, I think that's relatively new. And certainly the women that I speak to in clinic, they are not aware of this. And often when they're hitting 50 and they're kind of they're thinking they've got symptoms, they're not thinking menopause, because I think menopause is when everything stops. It's not that, erratic sort of period and things like that. So I guess
in hindsight, I would say with me,
Yes.
Sorry, I'll start again. In
Yeah.
hindsight, I would say with me, that was a way more difficult period with the fluctuations in your hormones compared with reaching menopause and being postmenopausal, when you're dealing with a flatline situation that's easier to adjust if you choose to go down the HRT route. So looking back, I think that's why I get all soapboxy with my perimenopausal friends, because you don't, that's just such an awful stage to live through. 10 years of dips and rises in different hormones, and it's just the impact on that you just write off to something else. It's just debilitating in many ways.
Yeah, exactly. And often you just feel like, oh, well, this is just how it is to be a woman. There's nothing that anybody can do. And that I hear that a lot from clients, again, that they've been told that, and it's just like that. There's a few things we can do to help. And I guess with regard to your area of expertise, Nikki, in terms of fashion and styling, that's what we really were going to talk about today. And I think it's really important because, again, this is something that we don't really talk about a lot, is that change in the body and how women feel about that and how that impacts their self-esteem. And if we can use clothes, fashion, styling to help improve that and lift that self-esteem, I think that's really, really valuable. So can you talk a little bit about this, Nikki, with what you do?
So you would see this too. A lot of people talk firstly about the change in their body. And that was sort of later in perimenopause for me, because it was just, the weirdest thing is you can be exercising and eating the same, and it's like it takes on its own shape or form.
Yeah.
And that is very confronting, because you go, I haven't done anything different. What like I haven't been on a fantastic holiday and whatever. And while in my community I don't dwell on weight loss or anything like that, it's that change out of the norm that is very hard when you're trying to accept the body that you have, and it's just doing, it's almost working against you. So for me, that was it was confronting, and there's a lot of inflammation. I think looking back, that's what was going on. I haven't actually weighed myself in 10 years. I don't own scales because they're way too triggering. And I decided at that time, and my daughter was a teenager, and we actually had a chat about it this morning, and I just said to myself, I said, I can't have every day dictated by a number. And I also, we might get onto this, but I also have had Hashimoto's for 25 years. So that works against me as well.
Absolutely.
So the fact that I would get on those scales every morning and let that number determine how I was quite disordered. And the batteries ran out, and I went, you know what, let's just ditch them.
Yeah.
And so then it becomes how you feel in clothes. And for me, ditching them also meant that I exercised for different reasons, and I ate well for different reasons. And that has stuck with me. And a decade of that patterning is really good. But then perimenopause comes along and it goes, oh my God, what are you doing here? So coming back to that acceptance, which I have talked about a lot in my community, that it is a daily struggle, because you know, it's not about getting up each day and going, I love my body, love what it does, because that's not the reality. But it is trying to accept the body that you have, and everybody's bodies are very different, and make it the most functioning body that you can. And that's been my aim for definitely the past decade. And a lot of that for me comes down to movement, and mostly feeding it with good food. And if anyone says to me, I would say movement is the best way to feel good about your body, because regardless of what that movement looks like, you feel stronger. And when you feel stronger, that, I think, particularly at this stage of my life, feels more empowering than definitely any number on a scale. And it helps me stand better and feel better in clothes. And then it's about finding clothes that suit your style personality, because that's the beauty of aging, is that we don't have to give as many F's about what other people think. And we can actually tap into, what do I really want to wear? Well, how do I want to show up in the world? How the power of what you wear is that someone can meet you and they can kind of get a reading on you straight away if you're being true to yourself and how you wear. And that's what I use it conversely, whether you want to be a riot of color, wear lots of clashing prints, or a bit like me, I'm very comfortable in my neutrals. I kind of give people permission to wear neutral colors, to wear black, because if that's what makes them feel good, then that's the most important thing than some idea that someone has said you've got to wear more color. If it's not you, it's not going to work. So that for me is a little bit of an armor to get the confidence to get on with it. But there also needs to be an acceptance that if your body has changed, then you need to find the new you within that. And that also is about finding the clothes that makes you feel comfortable in that. Because even if you want to get help to change that body in this new stage, you've got to feel good within yourself first, because otherwise you're fighting a mental battle that is never going to win.
That is so true. I work a lot with women that want to lose weight, and particularly in this age group. And I say to them, 80% of this is mindset and self-acceptance. And it shouldn't really be about the number on the scales. It's about feeling good in your body. It's about preventing health issues in the future. But really it really is a mind game. I think I totally agree with you, because if you're not accepting of yourself and practicing self-love, then it doesn't matter what that number is. It's never going to be good enough. And yeah, I hear this a lot.
Everything we were brought up with was all about punishment, in terms of you exercised as a punishment, not for the joy that can bring and the mental support that it can bring, that you ate good or bad foods. Like, all of that is so ingrained, particularly in women over 40 from that generation, because that's what our mothers and other adults around us acted. And you can't love your body if you think that that's punishing. You've got to switch it so that that's actually good for you and good for your health.
Absolutely. And I love that a lot of that language is starting to get dropped. And I really love, in fact, that you use the word movement when you were talking before rather than exercise, because I think, I know for me personally, I've always hated exercise. If I've ever gone to the gym, it's exactly that. It's punishment. It's because I wanted to lose weight or whatever. But since I discovered movement that I love, it then becomes a joy, and I love feeling empowered, and I love moving my body. And I know my brain and my mind works a lot better, and I feel a lot better about myself when I have done some sort of movement practice that day. Even if it's just going for a walk, you just feel good moving the body. And so I totally agree. I totally agree with that. And I love that letting go of those labels on foods as being good and bad. Yeah.
And on movement, I'll tell you a little story that some people might be affected by it as well. So with Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition, I have a really supportive integrative GP. And right back at the beginning, when I kind of found him and we worked together, because it is a partnership on something like that, and for perimenopause, he said the best exercise or movement for you is yoga and walking, because anything else is too harsh.
Yes.
So I kind of did that for years, and then leading up to my 50th birthday, do a learn to run course. And I'll start HIIT.
Oh no.
Classes. Oh my goodness. So it was great until it wasn't.
Yes.
And that the timing of it coincided with the pointy end of the perimenopause years, which you never know you're in, because you never know when your last period is going to be.
That's right.
And I look back and I go, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
So guess what I do now and have done for the last few years? Walking and yoga.
Yes. Yes.
It is, and for other people, it can be a very different thing. But I guess my message through all that to anyone in my community has been really listen to your body. Don't do something because you think that is the way to change your shape or to lose weight or just because you think you should. Consider where you are in your life and consider how it makes you feel. Not at the end, but while you're doing it. Like find some movement that you really enjoy doing.
Because I hear the same thing, Nikki, in my practice, that, and I think some of it is a bit of a panic and a fear that they've lost control of their body. And so I've got to do something really, punishing, really full on in order to get my body back and to feel like I used to feel. So having that, again, it comes back to that self-acceptance and that self-love and doing the things that you enjoy doing and feeling the benefits of that, because you do flog yourself, and some people, then it raises that inflammation and can make it even harder to kind of shift weight. It can impact your hormones. It can impact so many things that kind of detract from the positivity in life. So I totally agree with you on that. And I love that story. So I wanted to talk to you with regard to fashion. I know we had a little chat before we got recording. Is things that I often hear, and maybe I hear it a little bit in my own mind as well, is about dressing appropriately for our age. And I know that I have the words of my mother ringing in my mind that she used to say about other women, mutton dressed as lamb. And I often, if I'm getting dressed in clothes that maybe I've worn a few years ago, I think, can I still wear this? Am I too old to wear this? Even though it still fits fine and it still looks good, I think, am I sending a message that, I'm not accepting of myself? I don't know, but I'm really curious to see what you think about that, about dressing appropriately for your age and whether that actually still exists.
It exists because it's in the minds of so many women of my generation and older, and probably a little bit younger because their mothers have said stuff to them and because they were told those things. And I have poo-pooed it for many years, and I say dress for your attitude, not your age. So try that thing on, the dress or the outfit that you're unsure of, but don't make a decision on whether you're going to wear it based on you think it's not appropriate. Base it on how you feel. Do you have a spark in your eyes when you look at yourself in the mirror in it? If so, hell yeah, wear it, because why not? Like, who's saying that suddenly when you reach a birthday ending in 0 that you've got to change how you dressed the day before when you had a birthday ending in 9? I just feel like it's always about the feeling for me. And that will change day to day. But I do cop. So I push the boundaries and I just wear what I like. And particularly in summer, it's so hot here in Brisbane. I'm not covering up every inch of my body. It's not perfect, but I like wearing some short skirts. I like wearing shorts, and it is too hot to put a pair of jeans on. So I just do it. But it's amazing the comments and the DMs and the things that I get. Like earlier this year, someone said that should only be seen on a teenager. That was a comment. There was another one like, that is way too short for you. I thought you'd know better as a stylist.
Oh my gosh.
And I went, I do give them a little bit of schooling and say, I hope you don't walk down the street telling people that, because that's a bit rude, a lot rude. Use some manners. Just scroll on by. And I know where these comments are coming from. They're coming from ingrained beliefs that they have because their mothers and the females around them have had those ingrained beliefs passed on. And I do believe the only time that I would do the appropriate thing is for certain situations and occasions. Like there might be a dress code or an office dress policy. That's when that comes in. But when it's your day-to-day dressing, and it's about dressing for you and what makes you feel good, because if you can feel comfortable and confident in what you're wearing, then that day's going to go a lot smoother for you compared with if you don't, and you don't quite gel with what you're wearing. And that can happen if you're wearing something that you think you need to wear because it's appropriate.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think with our generation, and what we talked about earlier was also, we, unlike our mothers maybe, but our grandmothers particularly, we've mostly continued in our careers. So we are living by nature of that more diverse and vibrant life than 2 generations before. So we are needing clothes for different things that they wouldn't have otherwise needed clothes for. So you've got more opportunity that you have to show who you are to the world. And I believe that also comes into play. And that's why I think the appropriate dressing in terms of age will slowly dissipate.
I think you're right. And the other thing I think we talked about before was, and people in our generation have been schooled with magazine articles about what you can wear in your 20s and then your 30s and your 40s, etc. And often actually anything above 40 was just ignored anyway.
That was ancient. Above 40 was ancient. Yeah, mind you, we're all guilty. When we were 18, we did think 40-year-olds were very, very old.
True. But we get that ingrained in our mind that this is appropriate to wear in that age group. And I love, particularly when I went on your website and looking at the models that you have, I had a little bit of a reaction with some of your models are I would call elderly, and you really don't see that in fashion and on websites. It was really quite extraordinary to me. Can you tell me a little bit about that decision to do that and whether that was considered really out there when you did that?
It's still considered out there. There wouldn't be many people. There are no labels globally who shoot campaigns on such a diverse range of women, not just sizes, but color, ability, and age. For starters, I'm not going to do a label that's aimed at women 40, much 35 and up, but the core market would be 40 to 60. And when you're not going to photograph those pieces on 18-year-old girls because you're not connecting. And this has been my biggest bugbear. I've loved fashion my entire life, obsessed with fashion, but it's never loved me. Like, it's never reflected who I am back in the campaigns and in the early days, so magazines. So it used to just really irritate me, particularly in the last 10 years, that I was being marketed to by brands that were obviously for my demographic, but I was getting marketed to by 18-year-old women. And the disconnect there is so wide. It just makes no sense why more brands don't market properly to their demographic. And then I really wanted to make it easier for people to shop online by representing every size that we stock, and not just in a stock standard model shape, which is also problematic because that can be representative of such a small part of the community, whereas not everybody is an hourglass shape. So, and not everyone is really tall. So I really wanted to have that mix so that it could be more fashion that you can see yourself in. And that's probably the biggest reason why so many people keep coming back to us, because we not only show that visually, but we share information about measurements of every model that does the campaigns with us. And so you can match those measurements to your measurements, or even just someone's height, and get a judge of where that dress might fall on you in comparison. Stuff I'd love to see on more online websites. So that, for me, it was just the culmination of many years of seeing and working against this disconnect between fashion marketing and the actual consumer, because fashion is so up its own bum, and it's a very elitist industry. Like, there are tons of designer labels. They literally don't want you in their clothes unless you are nothing above a size 8. Yeah. They really don't. They don't. Even if they make that size, there's quite a well-known national brand, they only put size 8s out on the floor. stock floor. You have to ask for another size. And I did recently.
Mm.
No, I didn't even ask. I didn't even get a chance to ask. She looked me up and down. She said, we've got more sizes out the back.
Oh.
I walked out.
Oh.
No, this is why I online shop for starters, but I will never online shop for you again. And that just, they don't want you. They don't want you in your clothes, in their clothes. So it is baffling to me that that is still going on and they're still in business because, yeah, it's a very narrow market that they're looking at.
Absolutely. And yeah, I, as I said before, like I had this visceral reaction to seeing this older woman on your site, because I'm so not used to seeing that. But I think that the more we can see that, the more accepting we become of ourselves as we're going through these different stages of life. And I love seeing people. There seems to be a bit of a movement. I don't know whether it's because I'm in this space or not, but people like high profile people like Polina Poritskova, Justine Bateman have recently kind of been in the media with this message of, it doesn't matter. Like you're getting older, you're getting wiser. Who cares what you're wearing, what you're looking like? Like there's kind of beauty at any age. And I don't think we've been, as women, hearing those messages, seeing those messages from such high profile people before. So I'm loving that we're seeing this so often now, but I think there's still way more work to do in the space.
So much more work, because some of those examples you've given, if you go into the comments on some of those posts, horrendous. Yes. And you know where they're coming from? Middle-aged women.
Yes.
And middle-aged white men. Like that's it's almost like we need to move on from this generation. I was talking to my daughter this morning and she's 25. Anyway, she's mid-20s.
Yeah.
And she was overhearing a podcast that was I was listening to, and she said, yeah, they're right. We don't talk to our friends about weight, about calories in a meal. We don't, and that, so she's a millennial. And I went, thank goodness. Like, and she wouldn't be representative of everybody, but she has a lot of girlfriends, and that it's not their topic of conversation. It's not ingrained in them as it was for the other two generations above that. So I feel like it's going to take some time, and that's why I kind of go on my soapbox about it, because whatever I can if I can change one woman, and we'll go back to the shorts situation. Every summer when I tell women to get their legs out, free their arms, I get messages from women who said, I finally bought the denim shorts. Oh my God, liberating. Like, you think you don't think that's a big thing, but it is. And we're not even talking necessarily large women. We're talking women who've been told, oh, I shouldn't have my legs out at whatever age. And each DM affirms what I'm doing. Like, you're making fashion okay for more women. Therefore, they're going to dress to be comfortable and confident, and therefore they're going to be able to get on with their day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, let's face it, there's more important things to be thinking about than whether you've got your legs out or not, and what other people are thinking about that. Yeah. But I have to admit, I've had those thoughts go through my head personally. And it is, I think women are particularly critical of each other. And if we can open, our minds a bit more to that, and to be more self-accepting with regard to our own bodies, I think that will go a long way towards moving this to a more kind of accepting place, particularly for women as they're getting older. So
definitely. I think another part we can play is stop commenting on people's bodies. And even when you're in a friendship group, don't comment on whether someone's lost weight. Don't comment on how something looks flattering, which is the worst possible word in my book, because it's got connotations like, if it's look flattering, you're going to look smaller. For starters, we don't know the reason behind the weight loss generally. That you could, and there are lots of incidences where people have experienced that, and it's something really awful.
Exactly.
So just don't comment on the color of their blazer, the color of how your eyes are looking so wonderful. Just stick away from anything that is potentially going to fall the wrong way. If you're commenting on someone's bodies in person or online, just don't. Don't.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Nikki. I remember when I was about 30, a work colleague who was a male made a comment, which I'm sure he was trying to be complimentary and nice, and there was no underlying kind of current to it, but he just sort of said to me, "Oh, you've lost weight, you look great," kind of thing. And I hadn't lost weight, and B, I didn't feel like I needed to lose weight. And so that just set up this whole loop in my head of, do I need to lose weight? What is going on here? Because I never thought about myself as someone who needed to lose weight. And just that, I'm sure he meant only good things, turned into a huge thing that I still remember 20 years later.
Comment, yes.
That comment. And so, yeah, I totally agree. Making comments about people's bodies, regardless if they're complimentary or not, needs to stop.
I remember someone in the office where I worked, it would have been 20 plus years ago, asked, "Oh, how far along are you?" She's a lovely lady, and she felt so embarrassed. And I went,
"Oh no,
I'm done with the children."
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Do not comment. And also, for that matter, if you think someone's pregnant, don't say anything till they say anything. Please don't, because either way,
I know,
it's not necessarily going to land very well. And
exactly.
And I think the gentleman in question, he would have seen a female in his life receive the same compliment, and they would have enjoyed it or something.
Yeah.
And they mightn't have had the mental loop that you have. But that's the other thing. We don't know what mental loops are going on inside each other's heads. So just don't open your mouth and don't comment on someone's.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So, Nikki, I did want to touch on today, before we kind of finish the interview, just a few tips that you might have for women with specific, how do I put it, shapes in their body that perhaps they want to make sure they look as good as they can. And some of the main things that happen in perimenopause and menopause is breasts can get bigger, and also we can start storing more weight around the torso area. So what are some tips that you might have that, that can help women manage that?
Okay, so if this is something new to you, then it is going to take a lot of mental work to kind of get around. So I get back to move every day some way. Just move every day some way, because you get a new appreciation of your body. The breast thing, that's probably the easiest to tackle, but you can't put a head in the sand about it. You're probably not the 16C that you were. You need to go and get measured and go to a proper bra specialist, particularly if you are going above like a double D. I definitely would find that specialist who can get you into a bra that is going to lift and support you, because it's going to feel foreign to have a much larger breast, just in any way, shape or form, let alone how you then dress for that. Because mostly it's going to be you feel you've got to cover up because you're not used to having it. But I would say the same with your tummy. You kind of just got to get used to your new shape and how it looks on you. So it's not about changing up the shapes of things that you wear. It's more about accepting that it's going to look different when you look in the mirror. And that's hard. It's really hard. A big thing I employ and I do is that I refuse to wear uncomfortable clothes, and I refuse to wear clothes that require shapewear. So which is why everything that we design is lovely, stretchy fabrics, feel lovely on the skin, because skin irritation in perimenopause and menopause is a thing as well. So you want it to feel really lovely on the skin. But you also don't want to feel like you're in a straitjacket. You don't want to feel like your jeans are digging into you while you're sitting down. So I look for structure still, but in fabrics that have a comfort factor to it. And I hate the term letting yourself go. It's not letting yourself go.
No.
It's actually just making your life comfortable so that you aren't conscious. If I'm sitting at my desk, I don't want to be conscious about digging into my tummy.
Yeah.
Because that just starts the mental loop as well, doesn't it?
Yes.
And I can still be quite dressed up because if I might have to go out for a meeting, but I'm in comfortable clothes that are okay to sit in a long period of time. So that's what I actually suggest. I don't believe in hiding because I don't think it hides anything. It's almost like you're hiding yourself if you're trying to camouflage a change in your body. It's more working with clothes that give you that spark when you put them on.
Yeah.
And that feel comfortable on. And that's what I do myself, but also suggest that others do. I don't do personal styling sessions, but if you're really stuck, I would suggest finding a referral to a wonderful personal stylist in your area, and they can get you started on things. And particularly find a personal stylist who's similar in age to you, who understands where you're at. And it could be just, it's a new season. Like every season of my life, whether it's after every child, I felt mentally my style had changed anyway, let alone your body shape. Like you can park that almost, but you are almost a different person. And the same thing happens if you change jobs or suddenly you're working for yourself instead of going to an office every day. These are changes of seasons, and that also can bring the same kind of uncertainty about, all these clothes just aren't me anymore. And you can be okay with that. And so it's both the body, but it's also the mind that comes into play there.
It's so true. I remember when I left corporate life and was working for myself, and I kept my suits, I reckon, for 6 or 7 years. And every time I went to, I thought, no, I've got to clean them out. And I'd look at them and I'd go, you just never know. You never know. You might want to go to an interview, or you might want to do, and it was the last time I moved house, I just got rid of all of them. I thought, this is crazy. If I haven't worn them for 7, 8 years, I probably don't want to wear them now anyway, because they're probably 10 years old. So it's crazy.
Yeah. It's a season of your life that was.
Yes.
And that was the appropriate dressing for that season.
Exactly.
And you're in a different season, and you could be in a different season in 5 years' time. So a lot of it, you go, oh, I spent all that money on those clothes. But if it's not serving you now, park it. Or at least package it all away. And then if you still haven't touched it in 6 months' time, then it's time to donate. And it is hard. Like before I stopped seeing women one-on-one, and my website and everything rolled on to being the business, what women wear is such an emotionally charged thing. And all the clothes hanging in someone's wardrobe, they're all charged with emotions, good and bad. Like one particular client, she had kept a whole wardrobe of clothes. They didn't fit her, but that wasn't the main worrying red flag to me. They all were from when she was in a really, really bad relationship. So she just needed someone to give permission to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And I just can't even imagine what that felt like to finally get them out of the house. And this isn't the house that she was in that bad relationship. Like they'd followed her around for ages.
Wow.
And that's when I talk about the good and bad mental energy in clothes. And that's why it's really good to reassess how you feel in clothes. Obviously, we all have functional clothes and that sort of thing, but I'm talking for clothes where you are front facing to people and you want to feel who you are right now. Good feeling. And that's where I think it transcends the shape of our body. And I think if you can focus on that, then there is less focus on, oh my goodness, my boobs are now 3 sizes bigger than they were last year.
Yeah, for sure. Love this so much. I've loved our talk today, Nikki. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Where can people find you if they want to follow you online?
I'm at Styling You at everything, and then our label is at Styling You the label.
Lovely. Awesome. And Nikki has also very generously offered a discount code for her shop online. And the code is Susie20. That's SUSIE 20. And I'll pop that in the show notes as well as where to go to use it. All right. So Nikki, I love this podcast, as I said, and I know that our listeners will get a lot out of it. So I just want to really thank you for your time. I know you're a really busy lady, and I am so happy with today.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining me today on the Ageless and Awesome podcast. If you liked today's episode, please make sure you click the little plus button if you're on Apple Podcasts, or the follow button if you're on Spotify, so that you can get each new episode delivered to you every single week. If you like free stuff, and who doesn't, then head over to susiegarden.com and grab my 8 essential age-defying secrets every woman over 40 should know right now. Or if you'd like to continue the discussion, head over to Instagram and DM me at Susie Garden Wellness. I'd love to connect with you.